Well, friends and neighbors, it is time to turn ahead. The Rams are next in the sights for the Kansas City Chiefs and their sniper offense. A lot to go over in how do they get there? Who will they have? And what does it all mean when it comes down to how many points they win by today with Matt Derrick from ChiefsDigest.com on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Turn this thing around because I feel a little bit more me. Welcome back, everybody. It's Locked On Chiefs, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hat on forwards or backwards, doesn't really matter because we're free on every platform that we can find. So thanks for listening to this with your first listen. Give another Locked On show your next listen, maybe the draft show. I may say some outlandish things on there today. I honestly can't keep track any longer. So let's get into it because some of the outlandish things that I always have to be asked about on the draft show is there anything that they have to have? And for the Chiefs, it's the injury situation to the wide receiver group that we have to get to. No update on Lucas Niang yet. We don't know any outcome there, but that also coincides with a couple of beat-up players at the wide receiver spot. Matt, Juju Smith-Schuster, the protocol is the protocol. It's an enigma. It's a fog. It's all kinds of things that we can't see through. Your gut feeling right now, do we expect to see some kind of incremental step? Do we expect to hear anything at all about Juju this week?
I mean, you're right. I mean, it is really hard to know. I mean, especially because the teams are not generally very transparent on these either. I mean, across the league, we don't see a whole lot of transparency. But Andy Reid was at least a little bit hopeful on Monday that there might be some progress this week. But I still go back to with the nature of that injury that Juju had and what certainly the severity of it that it looked to us. Look around the league, and to me, I mean, this is something you want to be very cautious with. And that is one thing that Andy Reid told us last week, that they were going to be very cautious with it. So I would say give Juju a little bit more time than he needs. If he gets cleared this week, but he doesn't have a full week of practice, I'd still be really hesitant about putting him out there. It doesn't mean the Chiefs won't, but I think it would benefit from having a full week and having a little bit more time to rest and recuperate, just to make sure that there's not a bounce back from this.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way too. I'd rather be overly cautious and have him for the playoffs than risk anything there. Now, Kadarius Toney is a different situation. Soft tissue, obviously an injury that he's had in the past. Hopefully he can work back in a little bit more this week, because I think what we saw in the offense last week, and we're going to talk at length about what this offense is right now, I think Toney has an interesting stake in it now, just in being able to immerse himself and get a couple of plays in the first week. If he can get back on the field, I think that makes up for some of what you're looking for from Juju.
Yeah, it could be. And, and the thing that's tricky with Toney is, remember, he did have a hamstring earlier in New York that had been bothering him. And what was described to me was that it had tightened up on him during the game. And that can be a little bit different than some other things. Sometimes I just want to be cautious with that. And sometimes it's nothing and something you can come back from pretty quickly. He's probably in the best of the situations from the three when you also had Juan Thornhill and Clyde with their injury. But you're right. I mean, it makes it really tough for that receiver room if you're now down three guys. And, even though Toney is new to that room, he was doing a lot of things for this team. And there were some things that he could fill in that McCole and Juju were doing. So that really hurts. But I saw evidence Sunday night of something that the question to me has always been, does Mahomes have this that Aaron Rodgers proved and like Tom Brady has proved, that you could make typical average receivers into something better, and you make better receivers great? That's the question. And personally, I think we were always going to be retroactively looking at this and saying, yeah, you know what? Mahomes has been doing that because he was making Demarcus Robinson at 400 and 500-yard receivers, these guys. I think we saw the evidence of that Sunday night with the performance that he had with elevating the games of Juju and with Sky Moore, getting the bulk of the work. I mean, I think it was Mahomes that brought that out in them. Not that it's not in him, but I think he's the one that tapped into it. So to me, I say you lean on that. If Mahomes has the ability to elevate receivers, now is when you lean on that, because you want to surround him with as many top targets, and we know the Chiefs and Brett Veach are always going to do that. Occasionally, you're just going to have to lean on Mahomes to just get the most of the guys that are around him.
And I think that still leaves plenty of upside to go chase, to have him tweeze out of their games. McCole will be out another few weeks, so he's got to go rest. They don't have him for an option. So the question becomes then, can MVS take a step forward? Had a couple of nice catches, not necessarily a replacement level performance for Juju's absence, but Justin Watson contributed as well. Obviously, Sky had a big week. Who do you think is most likely to reap the benefits, not just from a week of practice, but now the second week of going with this trio being the predominant guys getting reps?
Yeah, I think the safe bet is Justin Watson, because he's the one that's benefiting from the most snaps, and that's to be expected. I mean, he is the veteran. He's been around for a while, even though this is his first year in the offense. He's been with them throughout the entire offseason program. He's been picking things up quickly. He's got athleticism, and like I said, there's been some production in the league with a quarterback like Tom Brady in Tampa for a few years. So he's got that experience. He's certainly the one that's getting the bulk of the reps. But certainly, I mean, to me, it's an extension of what you saw on Sunday. You need Sky Moore to continue to get involved and to grow his role, even though he's still going to, I think, get a certain amount of reps, just because, as opposed to a Justin Watson that they're more comfortable with playing in multiple positions, Sky is still going to have some limited packages and things that he does. So it's going to be a little bit there. But also, to me, it's about leaning on the other parts of the offense. You saw, the Chiefs going back to a lot of 12 and 13 personnel, taking advantage of that deep tight end group. And you saw them lean on the run, which I think is going to be another big thing this week against the Rams.
I certainly hope so. I want to talk about that matchup in a minute. And folks, we are brought to you today by LinkedIn Jobs. Make sure you check them out because they're going to help you with everything. But one guy's out there still looking for a job, and I'm not going to let it go until there's a decision made about it. With these injuries, does this change your outlook on work? Do they need to have another weapon added to this roster? Whether Odell Beckham is actually healthy or not, that remains to be seen. But just in theory, that he is 80% of his self, 85% of his self. Is that not just a luxury, but a need now?
I mean, I know Brett Veach is never going to turn down another weapon. He could have 8 receivers, and if there's a chance to add another 9th really, really good one, he's going to. So I don't think that's a restriction. I just don't know if OBJ's availability fits the Chiefs' needs as far as the injuries go, because to me, these injuries are an acute problem. You need help now. You need help this week. It's not in December. It's not in January that you need the help. So if you're looking to OBJ for a solution, to me, that's the Chiefs saying, we think that we need one more piece to get us over the hump in January and February. Right now is when they need to be people bailing the water right now. I mean, that's when they need the assistance. So, and that's not what OBJ is going to do. I mean, certainly if, you see what's floating out there in the ether, OBJ's talking about coming back after Thanksgiving and maybe first week of December. That's not, I mean, if OBJ, I think we're going to help out the Chiefs, he'd be in Kansas City right now.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Although I will say these 3 guys that are missing time right now have a tendency to miss time. So it may still be useful later, although I agree with you, like the water is rising right this moment. But the matchup comes back to how do they play this game? What do they accomplish? So we're going to get into the details of what this offense can and should look like after we get a word from our friends over at BetterHelp. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. Life is full of twists and turns, and it's important to show up for yourself through it all. BetterHelp is online therapy that will assess your needs and can match you with your own licensed professional therapist in less than 48 hours. I have been through a lot of things in my life, including a layoff from my big tech job back in the day that actually led to me creating my podcast career. And as this has gone forward, I could have used some help back then. It would have been really beneficial for how I got through that. BetterHelp is not a crisis line. It's not self-help. It's professional therapy done securely online and available to people worldwide. You can log onto your account anytime and send a message to a therapist, schedule a phone call, or schedule a video session. All those things can be done however you desire in making your therapy conform to what you need. And there are a few tries it might take for you to find what's right for you, but BetterHelp makes it easy and free to change therapists if needed. BetterHelp is a great way to invest in yourself and your future. All you have to do is visit their website and read the testimonials that are posted daily. We have a special offer for all of our listeners. right now. Get 10% off your first month over at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That's 10% off of your first month of online therapy at betterhelp.com/lockedon. In addition, make sure you check out Locked On Sports today because they have all the news from all the leagues that you want to know about. What I want to know about is, just as you hinted at, Matt, what does the evolution become if you degrade the offensive passing game a little bit due to the pass catchers? The uptick that we saw in the run game last week was certainly evident and honestly fun to watch for me. I think it stabilized the offense. Is that something, A, that you feel is sustainable? And do you think that the team feels it needs to be sustained?
And I think it definitely needs to be sustainable. And I think the Chiefs definitely feel like it needs to be sustainable because, and Andrew Reid's an offensive genius. I mean, he knows that he can't get away with every game being like the Titans game where you just let it go so lopsided. He knows that there needs to be that balanced. And he has a pretty strong history of being pretty close to his balance every single year of how often he throws and runs the football. So there's no doubt. I mean, what they did against the Chargers the other night is much closer to what Andy Reid wants to do. I mean, they may have had maybe a few more runs here and there than as far as the balance goes, but they need to be able to go to that on occasion. And and the fact they were able to just run one entire drive, I think was at least a good indication that the run game's coming along. Now, the Chargers aren't a very good run defense this year. Right. So that becomes the matter of replicating it. And honestly, replicating it against the Rams probably isn't going to impress me too much either because the Rams haven't been very good against the run this year. But it comes back to, if you don't put up another good rushing day against the Rams, then we're going to see that there's just something not firing right in that run game. There needs to be more consistency. And hey, has it been the backs? Has it been on the O-line? Has it been on the scheme and the play calling? I think Andy Reid would probably say it's a little of all three. Mm-hmm. But I mean, clearly with Pacheco, that was the best performance they've had from a running back this season. I mean, you can see it in the numbers, but I say it even just in watching Pacheco run. I mean, that was, I think, the most forceful and most commanding that we've seen anybody in that backfield this season.
And I think we need to see more of it, if nothing than the honesty factor. Obviously, they have 99 lurking out there that's going to be coming after Patrick Mahomes. And anything you can do to make him lose a little bit of edge, because he does feel he has to guard against the run, or he does have to work and be aware of screens. I think they have to do a lot to mentally slow down Aaron Donald, because I don't know that the rest of the front is that scary. I think that, like you said, allowing rushing yards is something they've done in bulk out there in Los Angeles. I think it's something that will allow this offense to have its base, and then they can look for the big plays because of the lack of experience at wide receiver. The question then becomes to me is, do you see this as a matchup that Travis is obviously on pace for, what is it, 15 and 3,500 yards at this point? I think they have to, like in years past, take out all the stops to slow down Travis Kelce. I think that means Ramsey. So who benefits from the attention that Travis gets the most in this matchup?
And honestly, I mean, it's an outside the box answer, but I think the answer might be Travis Kelce, because that just seems to be consistently what has happened. I mean, especially the last few games, the Titans did this, the Chargers did this. They have been beating the crap out of Travis Kelce. I think he's been played more physical this season, certainly without Tyreek, than he has been before. And even the last couple of weeks, I mean, we have seen opponents come in with directly, you're going to grab and hold and hit Travis every single chance. I mean, when do you see Travis Kelce going 5 yards down the field when he doesn't have somebody, picking and hitting at him? I mean, it's every single snap. It's just that who's going to guard him after 5 yards downfield? And when Mahomes is able to buy a couple of seconds and all of a sudden he's throwing the ball with, 3.5 seconds and the offensive line's giving him some time, you can't guard Travis Kelce that long. Not even two guys. I'm not even sure three guys can guard Travis Kelce that long, because eventually he's going to find a little window. So I don't know. I mean, to me, I don't know how you guard Travis Kelce other than you grab onto him, you hold him for dear life, you hope that the officials don't notice, and you get your pass rush there. Because if Mahomes gets time, he is going to find him. But you're also seeing, and Andy Reid pointed to this about the game on Sunday, that the other receivers were doing a better job too of helping sell their routes and helping out Travis in that regard, and that's something that, hey, you know what, I think has been a challenge at sometimes is that, especially when Tyreek was here, sometimes receivers could stand around and be watching Tyreek and Travis because they know that's where the ball's going, and they're not working on selling what they're doing. If Justin Watson's selling his route and suddenly the Chargers are looking at that and it frees up Travis Kelce for half a second, Travis Kelce's going to take that.
Yeah, and I think there was a couple of plays that were evident of that. One ended up being a touchdown, I do believe, because Watson, in selling that route, gets himself in position to block in what is going to be the reception for Kelce. It all comes together and is a team sport, folks. We have to remember that most days. But it is about the team and how they can get these wins, even though this last one was a nail biter. I'm not ready to do that again, I have to tell you. But when we get back, we're going to go over what does this mean? How do they do this? And what can we look at for this stretch run down to the playoffs in January? I mean, it feels like it's right around the corner. I know it's not, but it's coming quick. So with that, here's a word from our friends over at LinkedIn Jobs. As you gear up for fall, you need to find the right people to help your team and your small business fire on all the cylinders. LinkedIn Jobs is here to make it easier for you to find the people that you want to talk to faster and for free. I'm always looking for good content creators, graphic artists, et cetera, et cetera. It makes it simple to just create a job in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs and reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. You add your job, and the purple hashtag hiring frame comes in on your LinkedIn profile, and it spreads the word to your network as well as others that you're trying to find the right people to hire. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates that you want to talk to faster. And did you know that every week 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free on linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. I want to take a different tack at this and not look at who Patrick is throwing to or how good the defense has risen the last few weeks, despite having so many young players playing in the secondary. All of that certainly plays a part. And you guys know I want to talk defense, but we're going to give it a rest for today because we got to take the 30,000 foot view. And right now, after 10 weeks, and the top 10 of these teams have all played 10 games. So it is an even playing field. The Chiefs have scored the most points in this league at 300 right now. They're sitting 19 points ahead of the Buffalo Bills. And that's all well and good. They've also given up over 200. It's at 233 right now, which is, it sounds bad, but it's not uber bad. But this is the big thing for me. Going forward, it doesn't matter whether it's the run game, putting up yards. If the defense rises and slows teams down a little bit, they're plus 67 points on the season. And despite a 3-point game last week, it comes down to however you have to elevate. Somebody's got to elevate so that the Chiefs are always here and the opponent is always here. 1 game wins are still wins. So as you take a look 10 games into this season, Matt, after where we were at training camp, are they ahead of schedule? Are they behind a little bit? Is the development of the roster overall that we're seeing on the field about where you thought it was going to be? And where do they have to go next?
Yeah, it's a really great way to look at the question and to ask about it, because I mean, I think that offensively, I think this team's ahead of schedule. I mean, to say it and put the numbers in perspective of just the way you are and everything, and and saying that, hey, this team is number 1 in points, number 1 in yards, number 1 in first downs. They're averaging almost 3 points a drive. I mean, that's basically almost averaging a field goal every time they get the football. I mean, that's just not normal. So they're doing great things, and they're averaging 7.5 yards a play. I mean, considering all of the offseason turnover and controversy and the drama of the end of last season, I mean, this team's shaking it all off. And with all of the new faces, I wasn't sure that many wide receiving pieces would be able to come together the way that they have. I thought there was a chance that, hey, the Chiefs numerically, I mean, I said all along, I mean, this is going to be a different team. It's not going to be the same. Different doesn't mean worse, doesn't mean better. It could be the output the same. And I thought there was a reasonable chance that with Mahomes and Reed, that by the end of the year, that this team could be one of the 3 top offenses in the league. Well, we're only barely halfway through the season, and they're already the best offense in the league. So to me, that's ahead of schedule. Defensively, I think to win a championship, this team needs to be in the top 12, the top 15. Anything better than that, and the higher the defense can get, the greater their chances. And I think they're right about there. I mean, they're probably a little bit on the outside looking in of being one of those top 12 to 15 defenses right now. It's tough to measure them numerically because they get into so many boat races that teams are trying to keep up with them. So I think that's stressful on this Chiefs defense. And even points are still a little bit misleading. I mean, that's probably, honestly, at looking at all their metrics, points is one of their better ones. I mean, as far as how many points they're giving up per drive and how much they allow, it's all better than their yardage numbers. So to me, I mean, that's at least something pointing in the right direction, but I think that they need to be better. The one area that has probably not come along as quickly as I expected has been the special teams. And that's important just because there was so much turnover with so many veterans that left this team. Brett Veach tried to augment it by bringing in some veterans that, that could come in and help out. And that's worked, but, so many rookies and young players are in critical positions. And I asked Dave Tobe about that this week, and he feels like the young guys are getting better, certainly as far as, kick coverage goes and making blocks and making tackles. He feels like things are moving in the right direction. Are they where they want to be? No. I mean, I think that they still want to be better. And if special teams lets this team down, it's not going to be Harrison Butker. It's not going to be Tommy Townsend. It's going to be the coverage. It's going to be tackling. It's going to be blocking on teams. That's what's going to cost them if it does cost them.
I like the way you put that. And they go hand in hand because the Chiefs right now are sitting at 233. They are 18th in points allowed. And so they can see that 12 to 15 range you're talking about from here. And if you can get the point where your two cover teams can actually give you minus 15 yards, just not allow it to get past the 25, that helps set up the defense that much more to bring that number down a little bit. And if they can get right now, had they limited, just cut out 15 points, they're in that range you were talking about, 12 to 15. I think that's really the key right now in setting up the defense to continue to be the base that can allow all the pass catchers to come back and allow them to straighten out how much they're going to run. Is it something that is still, how much expectation should I have? Can this be corrected in a week or two? Or is it going to come down to the postseason run before we even think that maybe they got this down?
I mean, I think it's an evolution. I don't think anything's like a one, game fix or anything like that. I think it's a process because I think a lot of where the Chiefs need to improve right now, it's simply time and chemistry. I mean, and once again, I mean, it stems back to me about how many new faces are on this team and how much turnover there has been and how many young guys that there are. I mean, there's not a lot of players left. I mean, we're talking about the Rams here, and I keep thinking back to that 2018 game that was just so crazy between these two. Tell you what, there's not a lot of players on both those teams that are still around, and I mean, it's almost like two different teams this week than what we saw in that 54-51 shootout and everything. I mean, that's been the toughest part for this Chiefs team, and this affects all three phases. It's just been how quickly that they've been able to acclimate, get on the same page, to learn everything. It helps when you got Patrick Mahomes to ease those transitions on the offense. To me, it's, hey, Steve Spagnuolo and Dave Tobe are going to make their money this year about whether or not they're able to round these guys into shape by the end of the season, and that's the goal. I mean, I think there's something to it about the fact that we used to talk about Andy Reid being the best coach in the league when it comes to September and when it comes to after bye weeks and everything. You know what he is now? He's the best coach in the league in November and December. And that's a whole lot more important than being the best coach in the league in September.
It is. It's about closing it out. And it starts this Sunday, an afternoon game. I think I kind of like that, actually. Folks will be live. Don't forget that part. But it's a holiday week as well. And so I think that always throws something off a little bit. Do you think the fact that all this other distraction with the holidays going on, is that good for this team right now? Or is it still like the negative that everybody likes to think that it's a distraction?
That's an interesting thing. I think over the years from watching this, I think probably on Thanksgiving, I think traveling is probably an easier thing to do than to be at home. I think at home, you probably have a tendency to be a little bit more comfortable. You have your Thanksgiving and you probably have some family in town and there's probably a few more distractions. If you're on the road, yeah, you get Thursday afternoon off to spend with the family and everything. You have practice on Friday, but then Saturday morning, you're gone. So you don't have that distraction. It's like you're kind of back. It's a regular work week. And I think that probably helps a little bit for road teams. Maybe it's just I have no data to back that up. It's just my gut observation, but it seems to me like it's a lot easier, a lot more comfortable to be able to go on the road on Thanksgiving.
Now I know we're early, and I didn't put you on the spot last week, but given everything that's in flux, how do you feel about this game and its turnout?
I mean, I can't. I wish I could remember who tweeted this because it was an incredible note. But there's only been 3 times now that a Super Bowl champion has been a double-digit underdog the following season, and the previous 2 times the underdog Super Bowl champion won. Chiefs are a big favorite this week, and I expect they'll continue to be a big favorite if Matt Stafford's definitely out and isn't going to play. Mm-hmm. But I can't see a reason why they're not either. I mean, the Rams' offense is stuck in the muck right now. They've got, and maybe the turnover that they're having this week because they made some big moves on Tuesday about the future of that team. Maybe it's going to wake some guys up. We'll see what happens. But right now, I mean, it's Aaron Donald, and I don't know what else is going on over there. The Chiefs should roll, and I mean, I don't feel pretty about it, but I would not bet it. 14.5 points is way too many, but I'm taking the Chiefs 31-10.
Wow, I love it. Folks, what do you think is going to happen? Put it in the YouTube comments, put it in the Spotify reviews. We appreciate that, and we appreciate you, Matt. Having a wonderful Thanksgiving. Thanks for taking the time now, and we'll see you post-game.
Absolutely. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Take care.
We enjoy your time. We hope you enjoy your holiday. We have some content coming for you still in the week. Don't fret. We got all the information you need. Thanks for listening today. Enjoy that meal, and we'll talk to you next time.